You're listening to Negative. I'm Sean Baker, director of Red Rocket.
And I'm Simon Rex, who plays Mikey Saber in Red Rocket. Yeah.
Can you clap? Welcome to this new conversation of the podcast Negative. My name is Thibaut Elie, and I'm recording today with Maxime Rodriguez. Bonjour Maxime.
Bonjour.
Today we're going to talk about the latest film from one of the most singular American directors of his generation. Hello Sean Baker.
Hello, how are you?
Hello Simon Rex.
Hey, how are you?
Sean, you directed the film Red Rocket, in which Simon Rex plays the role of Mikey Saber. This is the story of this ex-porn star who returns to his wife, Lexi, in the home of Texas City. Anti-héros, vagabond, parasite, unemployed, liar, manipulator. There are many definitions for Mikey Saber, who tries to survive without money and at the expense of others. One day, he meets a young waitress in a donut shop, with whom it's love at first sight maybe, but it doesn't change his habits. Your film is both formally innovative and a fine and political description of your society, which can be one of the definitions of good cinema. Your movie entered in competition at the Cannes Film Festival in 2021 and will be released in France on February the 2nd. First question, Sean Baker, what was the key to writing the screenplay of this movie and specifically the character of Mikey that Simon plays?
Well, it was just about approaching this character study in an honest, objective way that wasn't condoning or condemning, but just presenting this archetype that I discovered in the adult film world to the audience. That was really it. I had met a handful of Mikey Sabers when doing research in that world, and I got to know them, and it was actually just me absorbing all the information they gave me over the years and then just putting it out on the paper.
And you, Simon, how did you understand and interpret the character of Mikey?
I think I understood it pretty quickly. There's a lot of people like Mikey Saber in Hollywood, that was easy for me to use and pull from. Also, not just in Hollywood, these types of toxic parasites, as you described, manipulators are all around us. So it was very easy for me to, reference people I've met in my life and use that for Mikey. It was a lot of fun to play an anti-hero. I grew up watching movies where the lead character was a villain of sorts. So we don't have enough movies like this, in my opinion.
Is it more difficult to write and to play a despicable character?
Are you asking me about the writing or
both of you?
Well, yeah, the script was amazing and he let me improv a bit. So there was room for me to add my own things. Sometimes it would be, I would go off topic too much and he'd say, okay, just bring it here. And so we got to play with improv a lot. And it was just the way the script is written, Mikey goes 100 miles an hour and doesn't really stop or listen. So I just understood that's what Sean wanted. And I feel like pretty quickly we were on the same page, or at least I caught up to what he wrote on the page. And I just knew what he wanted. So we were off pretty quick. This movie happened very fast for me as I was brought on at the very last minute because of COVID and because of so many things going on, that I basically came on with only 3 days to get to Texas and start getting to work.
And you, Sean, how did you... was it difficult to write such a despicable character?
Well, I think I knew these sorts of guys well enough where... I don't know if I would use the word difficult. I got it all on paper, and then striking that balance was, I think, striking the balance between comedy and pathos and the tone of the film. That was really what was discovered during production and then in post-production and the editing. So I think that's the difficult part. The writing actually was pretty quick, pretty I called it like just vomiting it all out on paper. That's what I did. It was actually, we fleshed it out over the course of the month that leading up to production.
Did you try to get nuance to this character?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Did you try to get
nuance?
Nuance, layers to this character?
Oh, most definitely. The last thing I wanted was just a very black and white, anti-hero in which there is no nuance. I think that it was all about creating depth in his character, and him obviously delivering on that helped flesh this character out to something that I think is a way more honest portrayal of a human being, Yeah.
You shot this film with a rather small technical crew for a feature film, only 10 people, something that would be more suited for a short film, in fact. What kind of freedom did this likeness on the set give you?
Oh, the freedom to improvise behind the camera. I ask my actors to improvise in front of the camera, but there was a lot of improvising behind the camera too. Just us having to tackle problems, tackle any sort of setbacks in a way very different than you would tackle them with Hollywood. In Hollywood, you would throw money at problems. We didn't have that luxury. We had to pivot away from problems and just come up with another solution or another direction. So there was freedom in that, because I never had to answer to anybody. I could just say today let's just shoot this instead of what's on the schedule. Let's do this instead of what was planned. And I think that there was that spontaneity. I think that is actually there's an energy in that, and that energy is caught in the celluloid, and you can feel it as an audience member, that it's just like real life happening, and then one more thing I was going to say is really accepting life, accepting reality, like accepting the happy accidents and the serendipity that happens. If it rains one day, okay, write rain into your scene and make it a rainy scene, that sort of thing, being open to real life.
And you, Simon, how did you appreciate this freedom of the small crew?
I liked it because, like what his point is now, that you really have to surrender sometimes, and you can't control certain things. And I think I've been on movies where it's a very controlled environment, a lot of money, a lot of maybe too many people. Like we say in America, too many cooks in the kitchen. I think I prefer this personally, because you form, very quickly. If you're on a big production, it's hard to get to know everybody. And when you have 10 people, it's very intimate. And that makes for a more pleasurable experience of shooting. Maybe you don't have the amenities and the nice big trailer, or the person holding your umbrella up and fussing over you, which I actually don't like. So I feel like not only was it more pleasurable, but it served this movie because of the content and the character and the world, that it didn't need to be a lot of, extra things and money and all these things. I don't think it would have worked.
Yeah. Do you, can I just tell a quick little story? We have a friend who's a big Hollywood director, and he asked me how many times we moved that train in and out. How long did it take to get that shot? I'm like, no, man, we couldn't control that train. It was going to come one time during the day, and we had to nail that shot. And it was everybody being on board and everybody giving it their all. And that was another wonderful thing, that this small crew was so driven. Everybody was on the same page trying to achieve the same thing. So when we were put under pressure like that, it was everybody working, so hard to achieve it. And that was a really wonderful thing to be a part of. Yeah.
And Simon, did this freedom help you to improvise on the set?
Yeah, and he gave me that freedom, so I think that's always very good to have a director who's open-minded, to trust the actor to improvise. A lot of times you don't get that freedom. I've been on jobs where it's so specific that you feel confined, and then you don't get to shine because you're just worried about making the director happy with exactly what's written. And when you have the freedom to play, again, that's when listening and reacting and hearing something for the first time and having a real laugh at something or whatever, just the real moments. It's hard to fake that. And the more, especially because this is a dark comedy, especially in comedy, I think it needs to be fresh, and the more overly rehearsed and over, it loses the thing, you know.
Yeah.
About comedy, what this genre, which has a code, filmmaking codes, provide you for drama that a drama could not provide you?
Oh, leaning into the comedy with this one, you mean? Yeah. Well, I tried to actually balance it between, drama and comedy, because that's what real life is. Real life is a combo. It's a mixture of all those, 24/7. So but also I have to say that there is a lightheartedness that comes to the set when you are doing a comedy. You are actually having fun. I had fun watching these guys because they have, I was blessed that almost my entire cast has the skill and the talent of comedic improvisation. So to watch them go off from sometimes just riff on scenes for a few minutes, it was a joy for me. It was like it was almost like sometimes I was going to a comedy show. And it was entertaining for me in the moment, as well as knowing that I was capturing this wonderful stuff on camera. So so I think that it provides that. It provides that, in general, just that levity that is true to life, that is true and is honest. So I hope to do this kind of combination with all of my films moving forward, quite honestly.
One of the main characters of the movie is maybe Texas City, where you shot. This is located in the state of Texas, near the port city of Houston. You mainly show a small fraction of the city and its vicinity. Is Texas City a snapshot of America for you?
A certain aspect of America, industrial America. Obviously, I was using the oil and gas industry as a backdrop on purpose, but also Texas City was such a because it's one of the largest refinery cities in the United States. On a visual level, it's as an artist, it felt like a gift, because I could spin the camera in any direction and get these wonderful vistas and wonderful landscapes of twisted metal and steam and smoke and flame. So on a visual level, it was very visceral. And then I think that, what your space, your living space, where people, the location that we focus our stories on, why not make them a character? I mean, it just helps the audience get grounded a little more and understand and get their bearings of where they are. And I've found locations, throughout my films that have a strong visual, just beautiful visuals about them. And I 100% embrace them. And I have wonderful, cinematographers who also see the beauty in these areas and know how to capture that.
About your cinematographer, Drew Daniels, he said that during the wall shoot, we were literally playing cat and mouse with the refinery guards. You'd see them, refinery guards. You'd see them coming down the road, and you'd immediately hide your cameras. It was kind of like a super guerrilla war, like we were criminals running from the police, then getting back in place after they left. Simon, how do you stay in character in that kind of situation?
No, that right away, I don't know if you remember, one of the first days of shooting, I think we were right by the refineries, and you were, I was just getting to know Sean. This was, I don't know Sean I met Sean in Texas as I arrived, so I didn't know him. And he warned me he gave me a tour of Texas City, and he says, we're going to shoot here, but just be aware, like, we don't, we may have to be, what's the word, incognito or clandestine in our operations. So I knew when we get there one day. I remember we were trying to get a shot driving through the refineries, and you were alarmed because there was a presence of security.
Yeah.
And we didn't want in the very beginning of the film to get in trouble. So I remember feeling your energy and trying not to absorb it, because then I don't remember exactly what the shot was, but I had to separate myself from, the reality of that. Yes, we could maybe get in trouble. It's kind of reminded me of being a kid when you're worried about, I don't know, when you're doing something that you're not supposed to do. But I think that worked. It fed into everything that you see in the movie. All of the energy that comes through the screen is, we were playing cat and mouse, and we were hiding from authorities. So I actually think I thrived in those moments because it gives you an edge. Otherwise, if you're too comfortable,
Yeah, for the first couple of weeks we were on edge. When Drew Daniels and my producer Alex Coco and I were first doing our location scout, and I don't think I ever even told you this, we got pulled over, and we had to show our IDs, and all of our information was taken. We didn't know who was taking our information, but it was actually, a stressful moment. It was a couple of weeks later when we kind of realized that they only really care about potential terrorism around the refineries. So they just wanted to know if we were terrorists. They just wanted to know what we were up to. And when they realized that we were filmmakers, the last thing they could care about is our little film. So it was a couple of weeks of being on edge, and then realizing that we could probably get away with a lot more than we thought we could get away with.
And you were there one time, you were at base, and I was out shooting. For whatever reason, you weren't there, and I had the fake marijuana, because in the movie I'm smoking marijuana, but it's fake marijuana.
Or
right?
CBD marijuana.
CBD, right? Yeah. So I'm smoking, but I have these joints rolled in my pocket.
And they smell. And
I remember the neighbor called the police on us because we were driving around shooting me on the bike. A neighbor calls the police come up, and they were they're being police officers. They did not like us. And I remember thinking, shit, I have all this weed in my pocket. They're asking for my ID. Am I really going to go to jail? I'm already thinking, how do I explain? No, this is fake weed in my, it's just, the whole thing was very, it embodied the whole production of the film, which was, sort of, are we going to get in trouble? But nothing happened. Thank God. And also, when I was running naked, the police came once and laughed at us. They didn't care because they, again, were worried about bigger things like terrorism and crime. But I felt very vulnerable, naked in a robe, with the police looking in the van, asking us what we're doing here.
Yeah.
But, c'est la vie.
Let's talk more about the aesthetics of the picture of your movie.
Sure.
Which is a unique aesthetic for two reasons. You shot on film and not in digital, while the industry now only shoots in Alexa Mini. And you chose a 16mm film, a smaller medium than a 35mm, which gives a pronounced grain to the image. What guided your choice, which may seem somewhat outdated?
Well, right now in my career, I'm dedicated to film. I think it's important, if a filmmaker has the means and to do so, I think that it's really important for us to support Kodak right now. I mean, this medium is quickly going away because Hollywood has pretty much abandoned it. But we have to remember that this is the medium that created this art form, and so and I personally feel that images that are captured on celluloid just are, you simply cannot match the beauty, the depth, the organic quality of celluloid with digital. It's just, no matter what anybody says, you can't get there. So so that's where I am right now. I'm shooting my films on either 35 or 16, and we chose 16 because of budget. That was a big part of it. It was also the fact that we had a camera crew, 4 people, Drew and 3 others, having to work with this equipment, and we needed, a small a small amount of equipment in order to shoot in tight spaces and move fast. And Drew Daniels was very fast with the 16. He's as fast with 16 as most DPs are with digital. So it was really all of those reasons. And also I have to say we were able to shoot on real anamorphic 16, and that's very rare. I think we might be the only feature to have been shot on real anamorphic 16. There are other widescreen 16 millimeter films, but they do it in a way by shooting full frame and cropping the top and bottom, or they will take a 35 millimeter anamorphic and shoot it on 16, and it's ultra wide, like 3:1, and you have to crop right and left. But we found lenses that were specifically made for 16 that have never been used on a feature, only commercials and music videos. So we did something that I think achieved that Panavision widescreen look of 35 with the proper bend and bokeh and all of that, but it has, as you mentioned, that grit from the grain. So it's sort of the best of both worlds in a way. And I loved working on it. I absolutely loved the way that that area of Texas was captured using 16.
Again, if I could make a comparison, I feel the same about music. I do music as a hobby for years, and I have all these old analog machines that have a certain sound to them, but everything goes so digital that it sounds too good that it loses the romance or something, right? Like a crackle of a vinyl or the warmth of an old vintage machine from the 70s.
Yes.
Now it's too digital and too honest. And I remember when digital came out in about the year 2000, I was shooting a TV show and it went from film to digital.
Yeah.
And it was a big deal because the actresses on set did not like how honest the camera was, showing
true.
every makeup and wrinkle. I remember the day it switched over and them explaining, we're saving so much money, we don't care if you don't think you look good, we got to do it. And
Yeah.
it's a business. And that was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Pretty much, I watched it switch over from film to...
And it's a little bit of it's true that it costs a little bit more, but it doesn't cost so much more. And it's more of a convenience thing for producers and financiers. I think that it's up to, directors and cinematographers to really push back. So I encourage filmmakers who want to shoot on film, but perhaps have been, encouraged not to push back a little bit, demand film. Yeah.
But filmmakers like to shoot on film also because with a limited number of rolls of bobbin, it also changes the way the set works.
Sometimes it does. If you're, especially on a budget, you don't want to burn so much film. Everybody on the set is aware that every time you start that camera and that film is going through the gate, that you're essentially burning money. So I think it does up everybody's attention, their focus, so yes, it brings in it brings a certain work ethic as well to the set.
And you, Simon, as an actor on this film, did you feel this focus and tension of the shooting film? Was it on digital?
I felt added pressure, honestly, because in my mind, I still was of the thought process that, this is so much more expensive. I don't want to waste, the budget. So yeah, there was an added element, which maybe was a good thing because it made me take it a lot more seriously to show up to work prepared because I didn't want to burn through this film that they got. And also we were on a tight budget with shooting locations and time to shoot. So it was very ambitious it was very ambitious without being on film, with COVID, with the small crew, with the budget, with working with first-time actors. So yes, the film thing was just one more thing. So it was like the train coming, got to get it. But all of that worked to our advantage because it gave it, again, the edge of intensity that I think you feel through the movie.
Your movie reminded us of John Cassavetes.
Oh, really?
Because of the space you give to the actors.
What about John Cassavetes?
The space the director gives to the actors and improvisation.
Yeah. Like he would just capture moments, capture life, right? Yeah, I think that's a good filmmaker. I prefer that.
And also allowing scenes, like what I love about Cassavetes is also like he allows scenes to play out in real time, the way they really would. People's interactions, their behavior, it's caught in real time. It's not abridged as, you know, that in a way that you see so many, you know, there's so much in film and TV, television doing. So I'm glad you see that. He's a hero of mine. So for many reasons. And so I think, yeah, obviously, whatever influence you see on there is accurate.
You chose to set the action of your film during the 2016 US presidential campaign.
Yeah.
And you portray a certain reality about America, as we already talked about. Do you consider your movie as a political movie?
Well, I think all films, almost all art, is political to a certain degree. It's just it's about how overt we are or obvious we are with our politics. And in this, and sometimes, you know, I tackle, like for example, with Florida Project, I was tackling an issue. I was tackling an issue that I felt was needed some light shined upon it. You know, the issue of hidden homelessness in the United States. This film doesn't really have an issue I'm focusing on. It's more about themes, but there is still a political backbone and politics and is a major part of our lives right now in the United States, where everything is politicized, you know. So that was a theme I was tackling, and so I wanted to set it in a very, you know, politicized time, that summer leading up to that election.
And you, Simon, was it important for you to play in this movie also as a for political themes, but maybe also because the way it was made with a small crew is also in a form somewhat engaged?
Well, the first part, the politics, I'm not smart enough on politics to even discuss. So, and I didn't apply any of that to this movie. I mean, sure, you can make the comparison of my character to Trump in that, you know, he's a charismatic, charming, you know, kind of a con man, hustler, whether you agree with his politics or not. That's pretty accurate about him, and that's okay. But I didn't have any... I didn't bring any of that to the movie. I just wanted to, you know, that obviously in the original script, actually, there was a very ambiguous thing that we didn't have time to shoot, which was I would drive by and there would be a Trump sign and I would say to the person outside of their house, he's going to win. Mark my words, he's going to win. And even a couple scenes sitting in the living room, but we lost that.
It wasn't as if he was a Trump supporter. He
Right.
was just aware of something that it seemed like the whole world was not aware
Right,
of.
which would have been actually
Yeah.
pretty cool because
Yeah.
he's so clueless, but then he tapped into that because he knows, because he is that guy. But
Exactly.
regardless, that didn't make it on in the end, and that's okay. I don't think it was necessary. If anything, it might have made people think, oh, you know, that might have been too on the nose.
Yes.
So, and then what was the second part of the question?
The way the movie is made
Yeah,
with a small crew,
yeah.
for you, is it something political too?
I don't see the politics in that. I guess I don't understand. Maybe just it was a budget thing. It was about the money. I don't think you could afford a bigger crew with the amount of money that he was given to make this film. So it was again a blessing because he has a formula that he's done with his films with smaller crews and with the same people and. You know, his wife, who's a producer, is also doing the makeup, who's also coaching the first-time actors. I mean, there's all these people wearing different hats that for me, it was just cool to jump on board of the way he makes movies that I've never been a part of. And I'm like, oh, wow, you could do it like this? Because I actually operate that way too. I kind of like to wear different hats and do different things. And so for me, I actually think it was much more interesting and fun and learned so much more than being just an actor, stand here, say your lines. It's some big machine, you know. This is much more intimate.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if politics is the right word, but we're definitely going against the system in a way, or at least how we were told to make movies. We were sort of pushing against that, you know. even technique that that you learn in film school. Don't ever. I was told freshman year at NYU, don't use zooms. They're not mature. They're not sophisticated. Says who? Says who? I mean, I like zooms, and zooms can say a lot. So we were doing stuff like that. We were intentionally pushing against, I guess, just the system that's set up in the way that you're told to make films. I mean, this is art. You can do whatever you want. I remember Jim Jarmusch, who I'm obviously a big fan of and somebody who has influenced my career a lot. I remember in high school reading an interview with him, and he said that one of his first things he did was try to break the 180 rule, the breaking the line, intentionally doing that because he was always told not to do it. So, and I always found that very interesting, and so I look for those challenges. Yeah.
You're the director, but you're also your own editor of the movie. Why did you?
Well, for me, it's like I feel it's half my direction, quite honestly. It doesn't apply to all directors, obviously, but for me, I think I'm finding the film finally in the edit. That's where I'm truly finding the movie, and working on tone there, and yeah, again, discovering that movie. So for me, it's necessary for me to be the one putting it together. Plus, I think that my coverage is so, I might confuse an editor. I might be, I shoot in a way where pretty much I'm the only one who can edit it.
When we talk about with directors, they often tell us that editors that are not them provide another pair of eyes to the movies, a new, fresh eye. So this is they provide distance.
Yeah, that's true.
So you can provide your own distance to the movie you shot.
I try, and I actually have had the opportunity to literally get distance from my films by putting in by waiting to edit. And this one I didn't have as much time, but I still waited approximately a month before editing, because again, I try to forget everything about the shooting. I try to approach the footage as if I'm seeing it for the first time, almost like a documentarian, or a documentary editor, seeing this footage for the first time and trying to figure out how to put it together. I'm trying to forget there's even a script. So it depends. Each film has its own schedule, and so sometimes I have the luxury of waiting a long time before the edit, and sometimes I don't. But there's that. But also, do you really need a separate set of eyes? It depends on what type of movie you're making. If you're making a movie for the mainstream, in which you're trying to appeal to a broad audience, and sometimes even focus on the way I see this is when the Hollywood studios do a test screening, they're essentially trying to just figure out what works for the lowest common denominator, right? They don't want to offend anybody. They don't want to divide or polarize. It's let's make something that appeals to everybody. But I'm not trying to make those types of movies. I'm just trying to make these personal films. So I don't mean to be snotty about it or anything, but ultimately it's my signature. It's my film that I'm putting out there. I don't really need a lot of other opinions. I'm sorry if that sounds a little yeah, whatever. I'm sorry.
I understand. The film was shot on 33 days. 23 days.
24 days.
24 days. But the film is relatively long, more than 2 hours for the number of days you shot it. The length and the pace of the movie, was it difficult to find in the editing room?
Yeah. And regarding the length, I try to, obviously, look, I have a small bladder. I get it. I don't love long films, but in this film, I think I tried. I tried to cut it down, but I loved these performances. I loved watching these actors, and I felt that I felt I found the correct pace of the movie and the correct length. Um, I also when I edit, I go right to a fine cut. I don't even do an assemble or a rough. I go right. I polish each scene before moving on to the next scene, and so in the end, I'm essentially showing a fine cut to my team and saying, "What do you think?" And then us trying to just perhaps bridge a little bit. But um, yeah, I don't even know if I answered your question. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. And Simon, did you see this first cut?
No, I saw pretty much what was close to the final cut, as it was already accepted to Cannes at this point.
Yeah.
And I forget, I was on the road or something, and I saw it in New York with Bree, the woman who plays Lexi, my wife.
Yeah.
And we did a private screening in the theater, and I remember seeing it for the first time, and just it was just blew me away. Of course,
They were texting me while they were watching it.
Oh, where are we?
You were going like, oh my God, oh my God. I was like, just watch the movie.
Yeah,
Text me after.
Yeah, sorry. It's very hard, obviously, to remove yourself, right? I'm looking at myself for 2 hours. The whole movie's on me. So it took me a couple viewings to get past my ego or my self-doubt or criticisms of myself. But once I removed myself from the movie and was able to just watch it as a whole and really take everything else in, I just realized I was part of something very special, and this doesn't happen too often. And I'm very aware of that, that like, he's one of a dying breed that, is purely wants to make movies for the movie theater experience on film, not worried about, writing, directing, editing, picking the font. He knows what he wants, and that really lets me relax into it because I trust that he knows what he wants. So many times I've been on a movie set where the producer's leaning over and say, "Oh, you need to do this," and the writer's like, "I didn't have it in my mind this way," and it just gets too close. So I could just sit back and do my thing and trust, that's a big deal.
And then I have to say that also, I was blessed because I had actors I could trust, and they were. When Simon first got to Galveston, Texas, where we were based, we did a rehearsal the first day with him and with Simon and Bree, and they gave me so much confidence. In just that 1 hour or two that we were doing this rehearsal, they proved to me they already understood the character, they had wonderful instincts, and I was going to be surrounding them with first-timers. And so that first rehearsal, put my mind at ease because I knew I could trust them to sort of be the anchor of the film, the anchors, for this crazy shoot that we were about to jump into. Yeah.
Your film is going to be released in France on February the 2nd. France is the inventor, is where the cinema-theater was invented. How is important is for you the cinema-theater?
Incredibly important, and I so admire the love of cinema here in this country. It's and having premiered at Cannes in main competition was an absolute dream come true, and something that was incredibly unexpected. Seriously. I remember even like thank God for festival deadlines, by the way. That's what speeds up my edit. But I remember giving the cut to Cannes just sort of out of an obligation to my distributors, not thinking in any way we'd ever get in. So when we got in, it was just, it was mind-blowing. So yes, we're very happy that we have a theatrical release here in France, and because I know how special and I know how rare that is for U.S. independent films. So it means a lot.
And when you're in the editing room, do you think about the big screen too?
Oh yeah, of course. We and when we're shooting it, Drew, I always tell my cinematographers, imagine this first and foremost for the big screen. You can see, and today even the aesthetic has changed a bit because people are watching more of their content on smaller screens and even phones. Have you noticed how films and television series, they have a lot more close-ups these days. They don't have those wide shots. They don't have those vistas and those landscapes that I talked about. It's because we are, you know, we're a lot of, we're no longer making films for the big screen, which I think is sad. So yes, definitely that's in mind.
What is the most beautiful mistake, error, or failure that you made or had during this the making of this film?
Oh my God,
The biggest failure?
Yeah.
biggest mistake.
Most beautiful.
That ended up working out for us. You mean?
Yes or no?
Wow, oh gosh.
That's a good question. I don't think we've had that. What's the best mistake?
Oh, I know. I know. And it made it into the trailer and everything. When during the sabotage scene, when the artwork falls off the wall and hits him in the head, that was not meant.
That was not planned. I remember you were ecstatic about that moment.
I was worried at first. I was like, "Oh my gosh, is he hurt?" But then I realized he wasn't, and I was like, "Oh, thank you, film gods."
Yeah, those moments again. Yeah, that's hard to fake, and that really just happened. And yeah,
and the laugh, those were real laughs, like Bree and Bree. Yeah, the whole room just uproariously laughing at that. Yeah. Anyway.
What are your next projects?
I have a couple movies that I shot coming out. One is with Diane Keaton called Mac and Rita. It's a very light comedy where I play a shaman, like a new age bullshit artist, kind of similar to Mikey, but spiritual. A small role. And then I have another movie called Down Low with Zach Quinto and Lucas Gage, which is another kind of broad comedy. So I have a couple of those coming out, and then a couple of things that I'm not comfortable to discuss because they're not confirmed yet, that I will be shooting.
Yeah, and I actually was very inspired by making this smaller film, and I think I want to make something on a similar scale next. So I can't tell you the subject matter just yet, but it will be something in a similar size. Let's just say that. Yeah.
You are currently showing the film in France. What do you find the most interesting about French cinema now, or maybe in the past?
Oh my God, there's a lot to.
It's a bonus question if you.
That's a big question. Oof. I mean, that's a really big question.
Do you have
I can focus on like
a French director? I don't know.
What was that?
Do you have a French director that you?
Oh, there are many.
Yeah.
There are many. I'll just name one right now. I mean, obviously, I'm very connected to the French New Wave, so all of those directors mean something to me. But it was very interesting being at Cannes this year because I was in competition with Bruno Dumont, who directly influenced this film, Red Rocket, his aesthetic, and he's had a big impact on my career. So to be in competition with him was just surreal and didn't feel right, you know, but so I really am right now, yeah, he's one director that I have my eyes on. And of course, you know, and I'm also so impressed with the winner of the Palme d'Or, you know, Tatan. I think Julie is an amazing director, and I can't wait to see what she does next. She's so exciting. So.
Well, thank you, Sean and Simon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
For participating in this new interview of Negative. Negative is also a website, negative.co. You can discover the biography, video, extract of the film, as well as links to explore the topic further. See you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.